Thank you for the kind introduction, and we'll get straight to it. Our wheelhouse as a group has been, since Palmarejo, Mexico, brownfields, epithermal, high-grade gold, silver, so we'll focus on that. And we'll talk about the fact that, albeit I'm labelled as a director of Otter Gold, I'm a shareholder, of course, of Uvre. Standard disclaimer, because I will make a lot of speculative comments, particularly with the earlier stage projects. So, importantly, any junior should have a portfolio, not just one project, to balance risk. I've been a director since 2007 of ASX entities, and what you like to see, and you always see, is one project that dominates value. So we'll talk a lot about Waitakere, and we'll talk about the other projects in a peripheral sense, albeit some of them more exciting than others. I think this is a slide, if you're like me, there's a lot of presentations today, you can't remember too many slides. This is one of the two slides I want you to memorise. It's the fact that as an investment jurisdiction for your post-tax investment, you want to see low-risk jurisdictions, and that's New Zealand now, internationally ranked above any Australian jurisdiction. For the reason is always, if you find it, will you mine it? And the new fast-track process, which is an act of parliament in New Zealand, has seen OceanaGold and other major developers de-risking their assets and their shareholders' assets. So we care about risk for our shareholders, and this is, apart from the high grades, which will be very topical shortly, this is a key point to take away. You won't lose your asset when you become an owner of the company. To that end, one of the other tasks of any board is to ensure not just price increase with good results, but also volume increase, and liquidity in the company has changed significantly for UVA shareholders since they purchased Otter Gold. And we like to see increased volume and price always with more results, and you'll see that in the future. I don't speculate on future price, but I do speculate on results. We'll talk about that in a minute. So the board, with every small company, the team's important. The main two people I've known for many years are Norm Seckold and Peter Nightingale, who I've worked with for 21 years since Mexico, and we have a habit of working on leaving the high-risk greenfields exploration to larger groups, and we prefer brownfields things that have already been de-risked to some extent by the previous operators. You'll see that in a minute. Brett Mitchell, who's the executive chairman, who's here as well. Please come and see him at the booth. He's brought a fresh approach to the management of the company, and thankfully for the two founders, myself, Peter Shitnan, who's currently in New Zealand preparing for drilling, and I'll be with him shortly as well. We are both, if you like, epithermal veterans. Pete and Peter's case, underground production recently in Europe, where we also work in another company. In my case, epithermal work on and off in Europe, Latin America, and now New Zealand. Also, excellent corporate support from Alex Passmore, who's not with us, but is enjoying stunning success with his company NMG, due to the premium you see on production these days. So, a good balanced board, and also happy founders/management. So this will dominate today's talk, and of course there's a lot of detail we won't cover because other companies have worked on this for 30 years. We're just completing and continuing that work in a world-class gold field. It is the northern part of the New Zealand, south end of Coromandel or Hauraki field. We do see the dominance, for example, of a large company, OceanaGold, of their exploration spend is now in New Zealand, so over $25 million is being spent this calendar year by OceanaGold in the Hauraki area alone, mainly Wharakarapunga, or WKP, their discovery. And we are in the heart of their tenement position, and therein lies most of the value for UVA shareholders. We managed to pull an ace and pick up what is the best brownfield asset apart from WKP, right next to the Waihi Goldfield. So it's quite the coup, but we can talk about the whys and wherefores at the booth. We like assets that are high grade because that gives you a bit of buffer for human error. Arguably, we have the highest grade product you'll see at this conference, but that's arguable, of course. Come and talk to me if you disagree. South Island assets, we think we have something very important at Invincible near Glenorchy, and we'll talk about that. And again, importantly, for any people in the field like myself, you like to see good corporate support, which certainly you have from Norm and the board. So look, I think this is the overall story for us, is imagine picking up a huge holding like this right next to the Golden Mile in Kalgoorlie. I don't want to get over the top, but the adjacent neurology piece is important when you're close to a multi-billion-dollar market cap company, and shoulder to shoulder with their current drilling efforts. Currently, Oceania, of course, working at Waihi very successfully, and they're a good bunch. They let us look at their materials sometimes, but that are public. WKP, which is well-known multi-million ounce discovery, and they've reinvigorated their efforts at Golden Cross recently. All of these systems, some of them well understood by people in the audience, including excellent work in the past by Newmont and Cyprus, we'll talk about. And so our job is, very fortunate shareholders for UVA, is to collate a lot of that information and, for example, drill Jubilee shortly, which had previous production, as you can see in the final line, of 48 grams per tonne. I think our grade tonnage curve position will end up slightly lower grade, but higher tonnes obviously. But it's a good thing to have those high grade nuts or plums to work from. So again, a brownfields theme. And that's why it's already only a few months after the transaction, it's drill ready. We are refining, where the drill pads are set and permitted, we're just refining some of the designs, and that's complete almost. We don't just want to try and drill as close to the high-grade workings as possible. Some people like to extend too far away from them, and that's what's happened in the past with larger groups. Whereas, as we saw at Palmarejo, it's important to slam into the old workings with the high grade, and you lose the odd drill bit, but it's not important. Eventually you figure it out, and you find hanging and footwall zones. Block modelling's already been done. We're just refining it at the moment. So this is not if you like, a geological PhD. We know exactly where we want to drill in 3D. We know roughly what the coarse graben model is or how it's chopped up. But what is pleasing is it is reasonably continuous. As you can see there, we're on a trend to the Oceania priority area to the south at Jubilee, and particularly Sovereign. So this slide is almost, I think, the slide of the deck. Those widths and grades are important, but bear in mind they are along the vein. But what is important with them is they're also continuous. So rise mining or sampling, which we've all done, underground geos anyway, is a very difficult job, but it's an important job because you get a sense of grade continuity. And you have a measure that all exploration and production geos use. It's called gram meters. And there's groups like Barrick, Newmont, they grade any intercept over 150 gram meters is important, and these are all over 1,000. So of course we've got to put the caveat that we need to drill through these, but what you see is continuous high-grade plums, and we want to continue those, and as of course we'll drill the odd void, but as we saw at Palmarejo with the old mining, where only 3% was mined out compared to the footwall and depth zones, we believe this helps de-risk the upcoming drill program. To that end, we've also been sampling where we can safely, with recent numbers up to 18 grams per tonne. So that's the slide which we can discuss at the booth, I would hope. And as I said, not to be repetitive, but we've planned the drilling already. The pads were predecessors already built and put in, so we don't have to do any earthworks, significant earthworks anyway. The drill rig's already contracted. We should be drilling next month, or at the end of this month. And there's solid numbers, including in the past. As you can see, there are a narrow intercept of 500 grams per tonne gold, which will follow to the south towards a Sovereign. So there is some complexity in that map, but the key point to focus on is the red lines, which are semi-continuous, which I like to see in any of these epithermal systems without oversimplifying things. Key point is here the work's already been done by others, so hence the drill programs. There's an internal competition about which holes are drilled first, an internal debate, and that's a healthy sign. You can see the founder in the light shirt there, Peter Zitnan, who's an excellent production engineer, and geologist underground and epithermals, Brett, who's at the booth, and myself, come and talk to us later. So any headline project should have support. We have other projects on the Otago goldfields, where I first started to look at projects 10 years ago. So I don't want people to think this is an overnight success. We first started to review, for example, Waitakari when it was held by others in 2014. It's the same with Otago. Unusually, this project, Invincible, north of Queenstown near Glenorchy, has two key attributes that I like. It has not just vein-hosted, but shear-hosted gold, such as at Macraes and Rise and Shine, the recent Santana success, which coincidentally I worked on in Mexico with Santana. It sounds like we're all interrelated, but it's not the case. The key point is this has the structural similarities, and we have to prove them, of large projects to our east. What you don't want to do in Otago is just drill quartz veins. They're not continuous enough. We also have tungsten in the footwall, as they do at Macraes and as they do at Rise and Shine, so we like it a lot. Some excellent government mapping, including 2 grams over 30 metres in a shear, so just needs a bit of urgent collation work to compete for drill metres with the North Island. And it also needs to be finally granted, which should be in a matter of weeks. Which again goes to the permissibility at the moment of working in New Zealand. Otarahua, which of course I pronounce incorrectly every time, but this is again a brownfields asset. It's been drilled in the past by Newmont and others, including in an effort to find feed for Macraes. We believe there's a high-grade supergene zone there. We just want to find out if it's continuous in the fresh zone. So it has some risk, but we're working on that at the moment. You can see the board there, including Peter Nightingale a few weeks ago when we went through New Zealand. Some high-grade gold numbers there as well. That's fine. You can have grade, but what you want as well is continuity. So the next drill program, perhaps early next year, will test that. Roaring Meg, one of the early stage projects. I did some sampling there, and there's some high grades we need to follow up. I was last there in February. Great landowners who would like to see us progress it. Non-competitive land use, apart from some lambing in spring. There's only 2 months a year you can't work there. Very high grade, exciting, but like any project suite, you have your less favoured assets. And Lawton Point is currently ranked 5th, but fantastic numbers, which we need to follow up. Some good work by Anglo American and Cyprus, but we need to find where these numbers are in situ. Like there's the numbers of 58 grams gold sounds great, and that's fine, but let's find where it is so we can get the rig adjacent to it. And like we always do, drill it point blank. Yeah, so I've got a minute left. Basically, I think the key point to take away is we're in a low-risk jurisdiction now that's been turned around. The recent Mines Minister, who we've seen speak recently in Sydney and recently in Queenstown a few weeks ago, the Honourable Shane Jones, is pushing through these fast-track approvals in a correct but precise way. And so if the project gets up and running, then it'll go all the way. Brett and the board, including Norm, Brett Mitchell here, have got an outstanding ASX record. That's why I worked with the same group for 20 odd years in terms of ethics and looking after shareholders. And Waitakari, and this is the key value lift, is we are pushing the rigs hard up against these high grades to extend and work from the known to the unknown. So we're not trying to prove up 1 million ounces and drill too deep like some predecessor outfits. And in my view, the current enterprise value of the shares represents an excellent opportunity for current and future owners of the company. Thank you. I encourage you to come to the booth and talk to myself or Brett, and look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.